Valentine's Day arrives each year wrapped in red and pink, celebrating something we call love. But what if I told you there are at least two very different experiences we are talking about when we speak of love? One is a beautiful intoxication that temporarily erases our ego limits and the control of the ego. What we call usually falling in love. The other is a conscious commitment to wholeness that integrates every part of who we are, what I call true love. Understanding the difference between these two doesn't diminish the magic, it deepens it. It transforms us from unconscious seekers endlessly chasing a feeling we can't quite recreate into conscious creators who can choose love with our eyes wide open. In Tantric traditions, masters taught their students something profound. Always return to the beginning. Not the literal beginning of your relationship, but the quality of presence that you had when everything was new. When you looked at your beloved with fresh eyes each time, fully present, curious, in awe of every word they spoke, every gesture they made. Back then, you couldn't predict their reactions. Your mind wasn't running its usual programs. You weren't on autopilot. You were simply there, fully alive, seeing them as endlessly fascinating, attractive, lovable. You felt constantly nourished because your thinking mind, with all its judgment and predictions, had temporarily stepped aside. This is the honeymoon phase that typically lasts about 1 year and a half, maybe two. And this is a time frame and the anthropologist Helen Fisher identified when the neurochemistry of passion and love begins to shift. After that, the automatic pilot kicks in. We start taking each other for granted. We think we know what they will say before they speak it. The mental mumbling begins and the enchantment slowly fades. But here's what the Tantric teachers understood. The beginning wasn't entirely real. It was true, yes, beautifully, powerfully true. Yet it was incomplete. During that phase, you projected all your hopes and dreams onto your beloved. You saw them as your soulmate, unable to see their full colors for real, only the parts that reflected back your longing. And they did the same with you. You both met in a dreamland of pink clouds, giving and receiving a love that felt like it awakened something ancient inside of you. You couldn't see the whole picture, the parts they didn't like about themselves, the patterns they inherited from childhood that would surface later. You also couldn't show them all of you. Maybe you didn't even know all of you yet, because those hidden parts, the subconscious patterns from parents inherited, early life circumstances, unhealed wounds, they were waiting in the background, ready to step onto the stage once the intoxication phase wore off. And here's where it's getting fascinating, for me at least. According to developmental psychology, specifically, there was this woman, Margaret Mahler's research on mother and infant bonding. It seems like the pattern of falling in love is imprinted in us from our very first months of life. Between around 1 month to about 5 months old, infants enter what Mahler called the symbiotic phase, a period where the mother and the baby exist in what she described as a dual unity, a merged state where boundaries dissolve. The baby can't distinguish where the mother ends and where self begins. It's a stage of complete fusion, perfectly natural and necessary for survival. The mother falls deeply in love with the baby. She would give her life for this tiny being. The baby feels safe, only in her arms, needs her for everything, and merges completely with her presence. And this is our first experience of that feeling, that oceanic, boundaryless love. Psychologically, this creates what therapists call our internal working model of love, an unconscious blueprint for all future attachments. When this symbiotic phase doesn't naturally evolve into healthy separation, it can leave both the mother and the child caught in the time that has passed. It was only very recently that I managed to understand and let go of a tormenting inner feeling. It was only very recently that I managed to understand and let go of chasing that tormenting inner feeling after learning through personal study and experience that this is in fact a well proven fact. My own mother could not really manage all the transformations occurring early in my teenage years, things like the illness and death of my father, certain unapproved life choices I made that put miles of physical distance between me and her. She was caught in that symbiotic fusion, unable to relate to my actual needs as I grew up. For her, I remained the little girl who needed only her, frozen in that early stage of merged identity. And I'm sure many of you struggle at some point in your life with a similar situation. Research by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth on attachment theory confirms this. When caregivers remain emotionally fixed in the symbiotic stage, unable to support the child's natural separation and individuation, it profoundly affects the child's future relationships. The child develops what is called an insecure attachment pattern, either anxious, avoidant, or worse, which was my case, a conflicted combination of both. And this affected my choices of men, my awareness over my own safety through life, choosing life scenarios that turn out detrimental to my physical and emotional well being. Because I was unconsciously seeking that original merged feeling, that sense of complete safety and fusion I had experienced in the first months of life, but never fully moved beyond with my mother. As adults, we long for that feeling without understanding its origin. When we touch it, when we feel it, in those moments of falling in love that seem to happen by fate, we feel we have found it. Our twin flame, our soulmate, that mysterious connection. I used to have this instant feeling of, I know this person was the soul I've been waiting for since forever. I would reorganize my entire life so I could be around him, available as possible. I even moved from England to Denmark once on this ground. Until at some point when I stopped and looked backwards at my 3 long-term, unfulfilling couple relationships, though different, with many different lessons, one thing was totally the same. I believe that that man was my soulmate. This belief made me drop everything and accept everything. And of course, none of those soulmates had to do much because I didn't ask for much. I was easy to handle. That's when I realized I had abandoned myself and my own soul based on this belief I had. According to neuroscience research, the dopamine floods that create that addicted, obsessed quality naturally decline after about 2 years. Serotonin, which was suppressed, begins to normalize, which means the obsessive thinking about him fades. The rose-colored glasses come off. We start seeing the flaws, the incompatibilities, the ways they can't actually fill the void we thought they would. No wonder I got stuck for too long in each of those long-term relationships, in the naive hope things would change if only he would such and such, which he never did. And so we protect ourselves. We close our hearts. That longing lingers. But we won't let ourselves be fooled again or hurt again. We become adults who don't fall in love, who are cautious. We're guarding our heart. We operate from our heads, logical, reasoning, efficient, running away as soon as we detect the danger of vulnerability. That's why we even develop dating apps, where we can skip straight to the transaction, just sex, just temporary relief. We both know. As I heard some guy on TikTok saying, hey, if you don't know why you are on this app, just get off it. Because everybody who's on this app knows why we are here. I never even tried one of those apps, to be honest. Because I know from experience that 2 minutes of biochemical alleviation for a longing that returns the moment it's over, nah. It's just a different kind of addiction. It's like being drunk at a party, feeling intoxicated by someone in dim lighting, only to wake up in the daylight and wonder, who is this person? Why does everything feel so different? Why does he look different and feels different? The answer is simple but profound. You are seeing him or her with different eyes the night before. Last night, you saw with the eyes of spirit, that part of you that recognizes the divine spark in another, that knows only love, only wonder, only possibility. This morning, you are seeing with the eyes of ego, the survival mechanism, the defense protection mechanism, designed to catalog threats, remember wounds, protect you from pain, keep you safe. Neither is wrong. We need both. But spirit and ego require training to work together. In the beginning of a relationship, the spirit naturally cancels the ego defense mechanisms. Everything is cherry blossoms and kittens. But since we are here on earth to learn about our spiritual nature, while clearing our ego's limitations, inevitably the ego surfaces. Flaws appears, defenses activate, the enchantment cracks. This is where true love can begin, for those who choose it. A true couple relationship starts when both people keep their souls open and awake, choosing to look at their own surfacing patterns rather than blaming or running away or hiding from the other. When they take the necessary actions to break limiting patterns, when they define themselves based on who they are now, not who they are conditioned to be. Actually, the more you become aware of your conditionings and the more you intentionally redefine yourself in the now, the sooner you become free. It's a liberating feeling and experience. And here's how you recognize true love. It is an inner state of wonder and expansion, where you feel like giving for the sake of giving, unrelated to what he or she did for you, but simply outpouring from the depth of your being, connected to the highest, to the source of giving, of love. In that state, you feel totally at peace and fulfilled, detached in the most liberated sense. There's no grasping, no needing, no keeping score, just pure generosity of spirit, flowing from your wholeness. And here is the actual liberating truth. You don't need a partner to do this work. This transformation requires your absolute presence, your honesty, radical honesty, your complete commitment to know yourself and to become who you truly are, to identify less with your ego and more with the essence of God enlivening you, your body, your life. I know this is rather unromantic and harsh truth to put here on Valentine's Day. But if you are ready to stop chasing and start building a true love relationship with yourself and with God first, this video is for you. And this is where I'm at. Only then will you be able to choose another with whom to take the journey further. What a gift when you meet or have met maybe already someone who shares your level of presence, honesty, and commitment to their own transformation. Someone who you can trust without endless testing. Someone who consciously mirrors your growth because you have both communicated openly with each other your goals, your spiritual aspirations, to transform from ego-based individuality to spirit-centered autonomy together as a team, along with building your family, your lives together with all the details that you have chosen. This is not to say that romanticism and romance are obsolete. On the contrary, I'm a complete romantic. I love to spend time cuddling and lost in each other's eyes and playing outside in the rain, in the pouring rain. I'm convinced that true romantic gestures are necessary and needed to even start walking the path towards true love as small expressions of soul exuberance. I just don't mistake romanticism for emotional manipulation with the sole intention to get the sex rolling faster and then move on to the next. There's a world of difference between authentic romance and calculated seduction. In short, authenticity impresses me far more than calculated gestures, big or small. A simple, genuine moment of presence speaks louder than a dozen roses given with an agenda. When romance flows from the soul's overflow rather than the ego's strategy, that's when it becomes a sacred act, a bridge between spirits, not a transaction between minds or bodies. So this Valentine's Day, let's choose love over falling in love. Not because falling in love isn't beautiful. It absolutely is. Oh, the butterflies, the presence, the activation, the magnetism. Of course it is. It's just the first step. The doorway that temporarily shuts down ego so our spirit can bloom. But only true love, conscious, integrated, whole, can sustain that blooming. If we keep trying to go back to the way things were in the beginning, we deepen the split between the mind and the soul. Instead, let's bring them together. Let's integrate all parts into a whole, spirit-centered identity, where ego and mind have clear roles and capacities and trainings, where we know what is what, where we are no longer bound to misidentify with defensive patterns and limiting beliefs. True love doesn't erase you. It reveals you. It makes you whole. And that, my loves, is worth choosing again and again and again. Happy Valentine's Day.